The Google Search Console is one of the most important data sources you can use for analyzing the performance of your websites. As an example, we are looking right now at the Google Search Console for one of my properties, and I've already set a few filters. For instance, I am checking the performance based on 2 periods, so I am comparing the last 28 days with the 28 days prior to that, because this gives me an indication if the performance is better than before or worse, so I can see kind of a trend in my data. And there are also, of course, other things you can analyze. For instance, you have data for the queries, pages, country, devices, ranking data for a specific day. But you can also go one step further, for instance, by analyzing long tail keywords, the search intent by using the query filter with a regular expression, which means that the web interface is already quite powerful. But there's the drawback that if you want to do this analysis for another website, then you have to set all the filters again. And also if you want to analyze the data itself, then the dashboard of the Google Search Console won't help you. Even though they added recently some AI generated features, for instance, you can also now ask questions about your data. But compared to tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, or any other tool that is able to analyze data, it's kind of bad. And of course, you could go ahead and just export the data and then import it into Claude Code, for instance, and analyze it. But there's actually a better way. And that is the exact reason why I've created a CLI, so a command line interface for the API from the Google Search Console, which means all the data that you have also on the dashboard is now available right in your terminal and also for your AI agents. And to make that a little bit more clear, you can either use the command line interface by yourself or integrate into another system, which would be the first part here. So you can simply invoke a specific command and also add the flag for the formatting so that you get a table, which is definitely better if you want to read the data by yourself. Or you can also use any AI agent, for instance, Claude Code, which will call a specific skill, and the skill is aware of the Google Search Console CLI. Which means instead of doing it manually, you let Claude Code use the command line interface, then it will get the data right from the Google Search Console API, and afterwards it can also analyze the data for you. Alright, then let me show you how it actually works. And what you're seeing here is first of all Visual Studio Code, a terminal where already Claude Code is active. On the left side we have the file tree, so here's the source code for the Google Search Console CLI. But I have also another terminal open in order to show you how it looks like if you want to execute the CLI commands by yourself. And that would be also the very first step to execute a specific command for being able to get a token so that you are also able to retrieve the information from your Google Search Console properties. So as an example, in order to authenticate, I need to first of all call the CLI from the Google Search Console, which has the prefix GSC, followed by the command auth login. Then I have to provide the location of the file where the secrets are stored. And if I execute that, then it will continue by opening a browser on the left side, where I can now select the Google account, which is connected to the Google Search Console. I already did that, so in this case, I will skip it. And let's say you prefer a service account, then this is also supported with the command GSC of add profile followed by the name of the website. So you can use any name that you want to, followed by the argument service account, and then of course the location where the file is stored. So that's it regarding the authentication. Let's have a look into what is supported by the CLI itself. And here on the left side, you can see Python methods, which are then also mapped to specific endpoints from the API from the Google Search Console, which means you can list your websites that are connected to the Google Search Console, all your properties. Of course, the most important one is Search Analytics query, so you can also query performance data, get your sitemaps, submit the sitemap, delete the sitemap. But you can also use the CLI for inspecting a URL, for instance, if you want to check the indexing status. So let's take as an example one of the commands for listing the available sites. So in this case, I can simply use the GSC sites list command. And then it will return immediately all the websites where you have access to it, including the permission level. But let's talk about the part that is more interesting, which is how you can use Claude Code in order to analyze data from your Google Search Console. And for that, there are different skills available, which we can see here under the project skills. So they are also living here in the .claude folder, which is analyzing the performance in Audit, checking for keyword cannibalization, which is definitely always a good idea, comparing different time periods, a core analysis, inspecting a URL, finding query opportunities, so kind of low-hanging fruits by using the GSC opportunity skill, or in case if you want to analyze the data more in depth, for instance, for finding long tail keywords, analyzing the search intent, then you could also use the GSC query skill. So let's test the first skill, which is GSC analyze, and I can simply invoke it by using the skill directly, or I can also add a specific prompt, and then Claude Code will take care of finding the right skill and then also executing it. And for that, I can, in this case, provide my property URL, which is sc-domain followed by my domain itself. And in this case, I have to be specific because I have multiple websites added to my Google Search Console. But in case something goes wrong, let's say you are not aware of the property URL, then Claude Code will try to get the data. And if it runs into any errors, then it will also call the GSC sites command. So then eventually it will be able to figure out what is the right property URL. But that doesn't matter right now, so let's execute it. And now in the background, Claude will take care of executing the commands from the Google Search Console CLI. It also took a predefined date range, which is this one here, so the last 28 days. But in case you want to analyze 90 days, 180 days, or any specific time range, then you can also add that to your message. And then Claude will take care of adjusting the start and end date. And now Claude Code is done with the analysis, and if we scroll to the top, then we can see that we have a summary for the time period, so total clicks, impressions, the average click-through rate, average position, but also things that are more in depth, for instance, the top 10 queries by clicks, including an analysis if these clicks are coming from branded keywords, then also a table for the top performing pages, followed by an analysis for the devices, but it includes also quick wins. So where do you have high impressions, but the current position isn't that good? So in this case, I get recommendations for pages, but also queries. Next to that, we have also an analysis for the click-through rate and also things where it might make sense to have a look into it. So Claude gives you also already recommendations on what should be the next step. And in case you want to analyze the data more in depth, then you can simply ask a follow-up question, which is definitely a really nice way of analyzing the performance of your website. But let's say I don't want to execute a specific skill and instead ask a simple question, which could be, for instance, analyze the website Marvomatic and return all long tail keywords with more than 4 letters. And let's say we also want to categorize the data into the search intent, then we can simply add something like and categorize the queries into the specific search intents. And let's see what Claude will do. And now we can see that we have a long tail keyword analysis by search intent. So source data is from the Google Search Console, including a date range, which is 1st of March until the 29th of March. And if we scroll down, then we can see we have the informational intent. So users seeking to understand the concept, but they are not ready to buy yet, including all the queries that are extracted from the Google Search Console data. And if we scroll down, then we have also the commercial intent, again, with all the queries right from the Google Search Console. And by the way, it's also worth mentioning that if you ask Claude Code in another language, then of course it will do the search intent analysis based on your target language. So there are like no hard-coded values for specific keywords or terms that are, for instance, mapped to English or another language. And of course, there's also data for the other search intents, such as transactional, but also navigational, including again, a few recommendations on what could you do in order to improve the visibility or in general, the performance of your website. Let's take as a last example, the skill for the keyword cannibalization. So we can simply execute it because there's already data regarding the website Marvomatic in the context. So we can use it without an additional prompt. So Claude Code is done, and it took roughly 1.5 minutes for analyzing my website for issues regarding keyword cannibalization. And we can also see that we have metrics for unique queries, queries where multiple pages are ranking. And if we scroll down, then we can also see exactly which pages are competing for the same keywords. So in this case, this page here, but also this page, both are ranking for the keyword NNN rank tracker template. And in order to fix it, there's also, again, a recommendation. Then we have also a cannibalization issue regarding the brand term Marvomatic, but it's not as critical compared to the product pages that are competing with each other. And if you now think about what do you need to do in order to get the same data and also insights from the Google Search Console dashboard, then this won't be really easy because you have to set a lot of filters, export the data and analyze it in third-party tools, for instance, Looker Studio or any other tool that is capable of analyzing data from the Google Search Console. And the drawback with most of these tools is that they're either bad or expensive. While this approach with the CLI and also the Google Search Console API is free because you don't have to pay anything for querying the data from the API itself. And another thing I really like is that we don't only get data, but also an interpretation of the data, including recommendations. And as you can see, it's really comprehensive. And figuring out all these issues manually is definitely really time consuming, and even more if you have to do it for multiple websites. And that's it already regarding the CLI for the Google Search Console API and also for the Claude Code Skills. And in case you do have any questions, feel free to leave them to the comments, and we will see each other in the next video.